This is the first of a series of down-to-cases sessions on selling Hudson automobiles to new car prospects. Speaking for the Hudson Division of American Motors, we're mighty proud of you salesmen all over the country who are doing a fine job in today's challenging market. We believe this meeting and other meetings to follow will help you do a still better job. We're not going to talk generalities. These meetings will get right down to the real problem for all of us: how to make more sales and more money. The fastest way I know to acquire more skill in selling Hudson automobiles is to exchange selling ideas with other first-class Hudson salesmen. We'll have a chance to do that in this meeting. And in order to bring you additional ideas, we have consulted a group of leading Hudson salesmen and dealers to get their thinking on a mighty important subject: how to handle the trade-in phase of a new car sale. However, before we hear what the panel has to say, let's swap ideas with each other on this subject. For that purpose, let's listen to a true-to-life account of how one Hudson salesman handled a trade-in situation. After that, you'll be asked for your opinions about what was good and not so good about his selling. So listen carefully as our Hudson salesman, who is standing right here, tells you what happened to him the other day. You ready, Phil?
Yeah, sure. My name is Phil Pelico. Now, that's not a common name, so I better spell it for you. P-E-L-I-C-O. Pelico. Now, I've been called Pelico, Peliso, and even Pelican. Frankly, I don't care what prospects call me as long as they call me. But let's face it, these days there aren't many prospects calling. You've got to call them. Now, that's why lately I've been giving this 5-a-day program a whirl. And I got to admit that when I do, I usually turn up some real live prospects. And I've found that the prospects you get by telephoning and setting up appointments are much better, actually, than the shoppers that come into the showroom. Well, at least they haven't been to every dealership in the county. Some of those shoppers are such shrewd traders, I often wonder who's the better salesman, them or me. They'll hit every dealer within a 30-mile radius looking for an extra $10 allowance. Boy, those shoppers are really a nuisance. Anyway, to get to this story, one day I was making my telephone calls when I got this guy Hobart on the line.
Hello?
Hello, is this Mr. Hobart?
Yes, what is it?
Oh, Mr. Hobart, our records show you own a 4-door Buick Super. Is that correct?
Yes, what about it? Why do you ask?
Well, this is Phil Pelico at the Downtown Hudson Agency. If you're thinking about buying a new car, Mr. Hobart, I can work out a good deal for you. You see...
Oh, Hudson, eh? Well, matter of fact, Mr. Petticoat, I have been shopping around for a new car, but I hadn't thought about a Hudson, though.
Oh, Mr. Hobart, I'd like to show you
Say, tell me, Pellico, what did you give me for my Buick on a new Hudson? It's in beautiful condition, hasn't got a scratch on it. The inside is like new and the motor is...
Well, like I said, you never know what you're going to turn up when you start making phone calls on this 5-a-day plan. For 2 minutes, I listened to this character rave about how wonderful his car is. Finally, when I was at the point of asking him why he was even thinking of parting with his dreamboat, he said to me,
So, if you can give me a real good deal on my Buick, Mr. Pettigo, I'll come in ready to buy a new Hudson from you. Can you give me an idea of what you'd offer?
I can give you the best deal in town, Mr. Hobart. We need a 4-door Buick Super on our used car lot. That's why I called. Now, suppose I come out to your place right now, this afternoon. If your Buick is as good as you say it is, we'll give you top dollar for it.
Oh, I don't know about this afternoon. I'll stop in sometime next week and I'll ask for you. I'm in no hurry about this thing.
We might not be able to do as well next week, Mr. Hobart. May take some Buicks in trade in the meantime. I'll be out to your place in about 15 minutes or so, okay?
Well, all right. Come on out.
I took a Hornet Special out to his house and managed to get him right into it. We drove around for about 15 minutes with Hobart at the wheel. All the while I was talking features and demonstrating performance and handling. He asked me the price of the car and didn't bat an eyelash when I named the figure. By the way, I always quote the stripped price. It's easier for the prospect to take, and I find I can always sell accessories and options after the car is sold. Anyway, when we got back to his house, he seemed pretty much sold on the car.
Yes, sir, you got a fine car there. No question about it. Like the way it rides and handles. Much better than the other cars I've looked at. I'm very impressed.
Glad you like it, Mr. Hobart. There's no better car made than the Hudson. And we can give you a better deal than anyone in town.
Yes, you haven't told me yet what you're going to give me for my Buick here. You can see that it's in good shape. I've taken good care of it.
Yes, Mr. Hobart, I can see you've taken good care of it. I'll tell you what, let's see what it's listed at in the book. Let's see. Oh, here we are. Buick, 4-door super with Dynaflow. There it is. Now, that figure there shows the average price your car is selling for.
What? Oh, I'd never sell for that.
Well, because you've kept your car in good shape, I'll allow you $750. That's $100 over the retail price. Now, how's that? Fair enough?
$750? Oh, are you serious? Why, I've been offered $900 for that car. What are you trying to do? Steal it from me?
Now, just a second, Mr. Hobart. $750 is a very fair allowance. As a matter of fact, your car needs a paint job and 2 new tires. Now, that's over $100 right there we'd have to spend on it before we could resell it. And even after it's reconditioned, I doubt that we could get $750 for it.
Oh, horse feathers. The paint is faded in only a few spots, and those tires still have a lot of mileage left in them. Anyway, I'm not going to give that car away for $750, and that's for certain. Not when I can get $900 for it.
Well, $750 was the right price for this Buick. It was as high as we would normally go. But before I drove out to see Hobart, I talked with Clint Thomas, our sales manager, about this deal. Now, Clint told me that if the Buick was a clean piece, and if I had to, I should use the merchandising allowance we're now getting from the factory on all new 1954 series cars. Now, this meant I could, if necessary, go as high as $950 for Hobart's Buick. Now, that gave me a good chance to get this deal, so I said to Hobart, Mr. Hobart, I'd like to see you become a Hudson owner and a steady customer of mine. We have a special drive on now for new business, and besides, it happens that right now your car fits in nicely with our used car inventory, so I'll allow you the $900 you want and call it a deal. Now, do you want to pay the balance in cash or finance it?
Now, just a minute, young fella. Not so fast. Who said I'd take $900 from my car?
Why, didn't you say...
That I had been offered $900, yes. But I didn't say I would take that much. Why, if all I wanted was $900, I'd have bought the other car by this time. No, sir, $900 isn't enough for my car. Why, I paid over $3,000 for it just a few years ago.
This old geezer was a tough cookie. Probably been shopping every dealership in the county. Of course, I still had $50 to play with, but I decided not to use it unless I could close the deal with it. So I said to him, Mr. Hobart, $900 is all I can go on your car, but suppose I could get you a little more. Are you ready to buy this afternoon?
Oh, I don't know. I'd still like to see what the other dealers would give me for my car.
Now, look, Mr. Hobart, you say you like the new Hudson better than any of the other cars you've driven. Yet you still want to go shopping around. Now, you should be more interested in buying the right new car than in selling your old one.
Well, after driving your car, I think I'd like a Hudson. I just want to get the best deal I can. I want to see what other Hudson dealers would offer me. You don't blame me for that, do you? I hear you can make good deals these days if you know how to bargain, and I'm good at bargaining.
Well, $900 is as high as I can go right now, and I see that isn't enough. You still seem to want to shop around, so I'm going to ask you to do me and yourself a favor, Mr. Hobart. Don't make any deals until you've given us a chance to meet or beat the best price you get. Will you do that?
If you can give me a better price, Mr. Piccolo, why not give it to me now? Tell me what your best offer is.
I gave you my best offer as of now, but when you come back after doing all your shopping, I might be in a position to work out a little better deal.
Well, you know your business, I suppose. Still, some dealer is likely to give me the right offer, and I'll buy right then and there.
Well, if you do, you're not as good a bargainer as you claim, Mr. Hobart. Otherwise, you'd still wait to see what my final offer is. You see, in the meantime, I may locate a buyer for your car at a good price.
I'm beginning to realize that you're pretty good at this bargaining business, too, Mr. Pimlico.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Hobart.
Well, thank you for your trouble, Mr. Pellico. I'll probably give you a chance to beat the best offer I get, but I still think this car of mine's too good to let go for $900.
Well, what about it? Is Mr. Hobart right about Phil being a good bargainer? We'll pass out some voting sheets now, and you can vote your opinions about Phil selling. Then we'll compare notes and see what conclusions we can come to. Gentlemen, you've probably had some disagreement on the voting sheet questions. And that's as it should be, for they are questions on which most good salesmen will have some difference of opinion. Perhaps that's why selling is so fascinating. Nobody can say for sure exactly what will clinch the sale every time. Even so, experienced salesmen do work out answers to the tough questions thrown at them by prospects, and eventually learn how to handle the tough situations smoothly. And that's why we asked a group of some of the most successful Hudson salesmen and dealers in the country to give us their thinking on the very same questions you've been discussing. Listen now to what they had to say. The panel is not, however, laying down hard and fast rules. In fact, on some of the questions, they thought there might be two possible answers. Keep your voting sheets in front of you and compare your answers with theirs. The first question dealt with Phil's remark that
The prospects you get by telephoning and setting up appointments are much better than the shoppers that come into the showroom. Boy, those shoppers are a nuisance.
the panel voted unanimously for answer B on this question. They agreed with Phil that you can make easier and better deals with prospects you locate yourself before they start shopping. But they didn't go along with him that shoppers are a nuisance. One panel member put it this way.
I'll take all the shoppers I can get. Sure, they can give you a hard time and make you sweat out a deal, but that's part of the business these days. Most of the new car buyers today are shoppers. Giving discounts on appliances and other items is so common, nobody wants to pay list price for anything anymore. I know I don't, and I'm pretty sure Phil wouldn't go out and buy an appliance without looking for a discount. So I don't blame people for trying to save money on their new car, especially when they keep hearing and reading about the desperation offers being made by just about every competitive dealer.
Getting back to the case, you'll remember what took place when the prospect said,
If you can give me a real good deal on my Buick, I'll come in ready to buy a Hudson from you. Can you give me an idea of what you'd offer?
I can give you the best deal in town, Mr. Hobart. We need a four-door Buick Super on our used car lot. That's why I called. Now, suppose I come out to your place right now. If your Buick is as good as you say it is, I'll give you top dollar.
Question 2 asked what you thought of Phil's handling at this point. The panel picked answer A without question. Phil sold an immediate appointment rather than take a chance that the prospect would come in. And the panel thought this was good. One member added this thought.
Prospects are too few and far between to handle casually. Too many salesmen, I'm afraid, would have asked this prospect to drive the car into the dealership. Prospects are worth going out after, even if the salesman has to drive the old car back for the appraisal.
Question 3 dealt with Phil's remark to us about quoting the price. Remember what he said?
I always quote the stripped price. It's easier for the prospect to take, and I find I can always sell the accessories and options after the car is sold.
This question stirred up quite a controversy among the panel, with the vote being split evenly between A and B. A spokesman for the A voters explained their thinking this way.
Phil is smart to quote a strip price. Most competitive dealerships are quoting fully equipped prices. So a prospect who has shopped around, as Hobart did, gets a favorable price comparison from a strip price quote. Also, in this way, the salesman can usually point out to the prospect that there is a smaller cash difference involved. And as Phil stated, once the new car is sold, it is usually a cinch to sell accessories and options.
Those voting for B, however, argued that quoting a strip price makes it difficult to figure the deal. Here's what one panel member said on that score.
Well, how do you know what trade-in allowance to give unless you first figure the profit on accessories and options? Well, sure, sometimes when you quote a fully equipped price, the prospect may claim he has a lower figure from a competitor on a fully equipped car. Now, ask the prospect what model and what equipment was included at that figure. You may then be able to justify your quote simply by pointing out that you had figured on a more expensive model or more equipment. Or by refiguring on a comparable model and equipment, you may be able to show a lower cash difference. In short, make sure both you and the prospect know what the other deal really is.
One moment, please, while we turn the record over.
Well, our panel couldn't agree on question 3, but on question 4 they did. Remember what the prospect said after the demonstration ride?
Yes, sir. You've got a fine car there. No question about it. I like the way it rides and handles. Much better than the other cars I've looked at. I'm very impressed.
Glad you like it, Mr. Hobart. There's no better car made than the Hudson, and we can give you a better deal than anyone in town.
Answer C got all the votes on this question. Everyone on the panel thought Phil should have tried to close the sale right then and there.
You're darn right he should have. If a prospect told me in those enthusiastic terms that he liked the car I was showing him, from that point on, I would just assume the sale is made. Phil should have said something like this.
Well, I knew you'd like a Hudson after you rode in it and drove it. Most everyone does. Now, what color shall I put you down for, and how soon do you want delivery?
That's more like it. Sure, maybe your prospect will still hesitate, but, brother, there's no better selling technique in my book than acting all the way through the sale like the prospect is just naturally going to buy once he gets the facts and he has a chance to drive a Hudson.
Phil made another mistake at this point. That is bringing up the subject of the trade. It's quite common today for the salesman to get so used to talking deal, he keeps bringing it up all the time, even when the prospect is more interested in the new car. As a matter of fact, most salesmen pay too much attention to prospects' talk about deals. It's best not to hear half of what they tell you and to just smile at the other half.
Well, Phil looked at Hobart's car, then jumped the retail price in the book by $100, saying,
Because you've kept your car in such good shape, I can give you $750. How's that? Fair enough?
Question 5 asked what you thought of Phil's selling at this point. Most of the panel picked answer A. They felt that it was a good idea to use the book because most prospects have an exaggerated idea of what their car is worth, and the book, or classified ads, often brings them down to earth. One panel member added this suggestion.
I thought the way Phil gave the allowance figure to the prospect was terrible. $750. How's that? Fair enough? No. When you name a figure, make it sound like you are really giving something. Like this, for instance. Mr. Hobart, you've got a darn good Buick here. Ordinarily, we would only pay $600 for that model. But you've kept yours in such fine shape, I'm going to give you the best price I can. $750. Isn't that a swell deal? Well, anyway, you get the idea.
You bet we do. Thanks a lot. Now, question 6 asked what you thought of Phil's handling when the prospect claimed the allowance was too low.
$750? Well, I've been offered $900 for that car. What are you trying to do? Steal it from me?
$750 is a very fair allowance, Mr. Hobart. Matter of fact, your car needs a paint job and 2 new tires. Now, that's over $100 right there we'd have to spend on it before we could resell it. And I doubt that we could get $750 for it.
The panel voted for answer C to this question. They agreed that the best move when the prospect rejects your trade-in offer is to ask him what figure he has in mind. Getting the prospect to tell you what he will trade for is one of the most important steps in the entire trade-in procedure. Whatever figure the prospect names becomes a target to shoot at, either to knock down or to hit. Unfortunately, not every prospect will tell what he will trade for, preferring to see how high you will go without any guidance from him. One of our panel members had this to say.
There are 4 possible reasons for a prospect objecting to the trade-in figure you name. 1, he sincerely believes his car is worth more. 2, he has been to competition and has received a higher figure. 3, he has heard of another deal where an inferior or comparable car to his got a bigger allowance. And 4, he thinks by playing hard to get, he can force you to raise the ante. It helps to find out which of the 4 categories your prospect falls into. If he won't name the figure he has in mind, you can be pretty sure he's playing hard to get.
Other panel members criticized Phil for making the appraisal without driving the used car and looking it over carefully. They agreed that today, the used car inventory is a key factor in determining whether a dealer makes a good profit. Careless appraising, they said, can ruin the best dealership. Well, question 7 asked what you thought of Phil's handling when he upped the allowance from $750 to $900.
We have a special drive on for new business, Mr. Hobart, and besides, it happens that right now your used car fits in nicely with our used car inventory. So I'll allow you the $900 you want and call it a deal. Do you want to pay the balance in cash or finance it?
The panel liked this talk by Phil. They all picked answer A. Phil gave 2 reasons why he was increasing the allowance and made a nice closing try by assuming the prospect would accept the offer. The fact that this procedure didn't work in this instance is nothing against it. Here's how one panel member feels about it.
This was good selling. It's always a good idea to give some reason when you increase the allowance. Otherwise, the prospect may think you tried to cheat him with the lower figure, or that you can jump the figure some more without any trouble or reason. And assuming that the prospect is going to accept your offer is good selling strategy.
Phil held back $50 on the allowance he could give and asked the prospect whether he would buy if he could get a little more for his old car. Question 8 asked what you thought of this tactic. Most of the panel liked it. They thought Phil was smart in asking this question, so they voted for answer A. One panel member put it this way.
As mentioned before, it's wise to assume all along that the prospect will buy. But when you know he wants to shop some more, ask the prospect if he is ready to buy right away if he gets a good deal from you. Sometimes just asking this question will shame a shopper into buying or commit him to accepting your next offer.
Few members of the panel, however, picked answer C to question 8. They felt it was not wise to hold anything in reserve. They thought Phil should have gone as high as he could, not held back anything.
That's right. If a prospect is going to go shopping some more, he'd better have your best deal with him, or it's unlikely that you'll ever see him again. It's also a good idea to let him think there is a possibility of your going a few dollars more. And make sure that he knows what the cash difference is and other details of your offer, so he will be able to make a careful comparison with other deals.
Phil tried hard to get his prospect to come back. Remember what he said?
I'm going to ask you to do me and yourself a favor, Mr. Hobart. Don't make any deals until you've given us a chance to meet or beat the best price you get. Will you do that?
Phil was sure pouring on the heat here. Question 9 asked what you thought of his selling at this point. Most of the panel voted for A. They thought it was one good way to keep the prospect on the hook and well worth trying. A few members thought it was a useless try, too obvious an effort to make the prospect come back. Now that brings us to our next question, number 10. What is the likelihood of this prospect returning? The panel voted for answer B. They thought the possibility was very slight and recommended that Phil take the initiative by contacting this prospect again within a day or so to try to reopen the sale. One member had this word of advice.
Believe me, fellas, you'll lose a lot of sales if you don't get the full name and address of every prospect you talk to. And if you don't sell 'em, call 'em back in a day or so. This shows 'em you want their business. You can often get their correct name and address just by asking to see the registration card every time you appraise a car. Or perhaps by explaining that you want to check the serial or model number.
That sounds like very good advice. Now for the last question, number 11. The panel discussed for a long time what rating to give Phil on his handling of this prospect. They finally settled for answer B. Phil is a pretty good salesman, they said, but he overlooks several good opportunities to take control of the situation. And his critical attitude toward people who shop for the best deal makes him pay too much attention to the figures and not enough to the human elements involved. Many times, when the prospect has been shopping around quite a bit and your deal is the same or almost the same as his previous offers, the deciding factor, the panel suggested, may be the way you treat the prospect. Being friendly and showing interest in and sympathy with the prospect's point of view accounts for more sales today than is generally realized. The old saying, put yourself in the other fellow's shoes, contains a great deal of value. They agreed for automobile salesmen. Anyway, right now, let's do something that can't be done in your day-to-day selling. Let's have Phil try to sell the allowance over again. This time, he will follow the ideas expressed by our panel to see how they might work out in practice. We'll go back to the point where the prospect is saying,
Yes, I've been offered $900, but I didn't say I would take that much. If all I wanted was $900, I'd have bought the other car by this time. No, sir, $900 isn't enough for my car. Why, I paid over $3,000 for it just a few years ago.
Well, I don't blame you for wanting to get as much as you possibly can for your present car, Mr. Hobart. And after all, you are entitled to an extra bonus for keeping it in such fine condition. Now, apparently, you don't think $900 is enough. What do you think is a fair allowance?
Oh, I don't know. As a matter of fact, I've decided to buy a Hudson. But I intend to get the best deal I can. I'd like to see what the other Hudson dealers offer me. I hear you can get a good deal these days if you know how to bargain, and I'm good at bargaining, you know.
I'm glad you've decided to buy a Hudson, Mr. Hobart. That's the best buy you can get. It's the lowest priced car in the quality field. Now, what color do you want, and what body style, two-door or four-door?
Oh, I wouldn't take anything but a black four-door sedan. Never could see those fancy new colors.
I'll write that down in this order. Yes, sir, a black car always looks smart. Now, we happen to have a black four-door sedan on hand. You could start driving it tomorrow.
Oh, other dealers probably have them too, you know.
Not necessarily. You see, all Hudson cars are custom finished, ordered in advance by the dealer, and it usually takes 3 to 4 weeks to get one. We happen to have a black four-door sedan available, but it's unlikely that the other dealers would.
Well, I'll take my chances on that. I still want to see what will be the best offer I can get.
Now, Mr. Hobart, we have the largest and best-equipped service and parts department in the county. Now, since you obviously take good care of your cars, isn't it worth something to you to be able to have your car serviced as a good customer of your neighborhood Hudson dealer?
Well, yes, that is a point.
You know, Mr. Hobart, I think instead of gaining, you're going to lose money by shopping around.
Now, how's that?
Well, I've given you a deal I know can't be beaten by any other dealer because, as I've told you, we have a special drive on and can use a car like yours right now. We have other salesmen who are taking in cars all the time. If the picture changes on our used car inventory, and that can happen overnight, we may not be able to offer you as much as we can right this minute.
I see. Well, I'll tell you what. Will you give me $1,000 for my car?
I don't think we can, Mr. Hobart. But are you ready to sign an order at that figure?
Yes, I think so. Yes, I would.
Well, I know my sales manager would never accept the deal. $900 is the best price I can give you, but I'll tell you what I can do. Let's split the difference. We'll buy your car from you for $950. I can't guarantee my sales manager will accept the deal, but it's worth a try.
Well, I had my mind set on $1,000.
How much of a deposit can you give me? Our sales manager won't even consider a deal unless he sees a deposit with it.
I'm going to hold off. I still think I can get $1,000 if I shop around.
Well, Mr. Hobart, don't let $50 keep you from driving a new Hudson tomorrow.
Oh, I can wait. I better think this whole thing over. I'll let you know in a day or two.
What kind of equipment do you want in your new car, Mr. Hobart?
Oh, just a heater, that's all. I don't want any of those fancy doodads.
Well, you'll only get the equipment you want, Mr. Hobart. Now, here's what I can do. Our heater sells for $75. I'll allow you $900 cash and throw in the heater free of charge. Now, that's giving you a total allowance of $975. Now, here's the order all made out. Just sign it here, and then let's hope my boss will accept the deal.
Let me talk this over with my wife and see what she says.
Got to talk to the real boss in the family, huh? Is she home now?
No, she's away for a few days.
Does she know you're going to buy a car?
Why, of course she does. I just wanted to ride in the Hudson and have her feel certain that we were going to get a good deal.
Well, she's bound to like the Hudson as much as you do, but I'll tell you what. Just so you won't take a chance on losing this deal I've worked out, give me a deposit and we'll hold the black car for you. If your wife doesn't go along with your judgment, we'll return the deposit. Now, you can't lose on that deal, can you?
No, I guess not. Oh, all right. I'll accept the deal. Let me borrow your pen. I just hope your sales manager won't turn the deal down after all this.
Nice going, Phil. That was good selling. Of course, we all realize that each sale is different and that you can't close everyone no matter how well you handle them. If this prospect was more concerned about the cash difference, a different approach would have been called for. If he wasn't completely sold on the Hudson, the new car would have had to be sold harder. Our purpose today was to exchange some ideas on this important subject of selling to shoppers. And I think you'll agree we've done just that. In closing, let me remind you that a good salesman can't reach his maximum effectiveness and earnings until he knows how to locate prospects, how to tell a good product story and sell the appraisal, and most important, is willing and able to put forth the necessary energy. There's plenty of business out there waiting for good Hudson salesmen to come and get it. Go after it. Good luck and good selling.